Jordan's sick, so I don't. Are you like you just mentioned that you spaced out, so I imagine there might be some moments in this podcast where you say something, go, wait, what?
I mean, I think I'm fine, right? Like, I was sick last weekend, so all of the major symptoms are gone now. I will spare people what the major symptoms were because they're all pretty much in the TMI category.
Oh no.
Needless to say, things were not staying in my body. As I would have liked them to, like a lot. So I was dehydrated, like I was like bugging out. And so I've been like just trying to throw liquids in my body all through last weekend, all through this week, really. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel sick anymore. I just feel weird. I guess my body was kind of drained from it all. Mm-hmm. So I still feel a bit odd. And yeah, I spaced out right before we called in and started recording. You were like, are you ready to start recording? And so I just went over to Audacity like a zombie and just clicked the record button without having called Caitie yet. And I just kind of stared at it for like 3 seconds and I'm like, is this it? What's happening? Am I podcasting now?
This is how you make a podcast. You record silence.
This is podcast. Before I realized what I was doing. So I think I'm pretty good. I like triaged right before because I felt like dog crap when I woke up again today, which is weird because I got plenty of sleep last night. Uh-huh. So I'm just like, fucking smoothie, kale, fucking B12. Just...
the common cold is cured with smoothies from kale.
Well, no, I mean, like, there's also, Tylenol and medicine and all this other stuff, but like, It's just like stuff to kind of put a little more pep in the podcast. I don't know.
Pep in the podcast. Welcome to our Pepcast today, everybody.
Caitie, how have you been? You took a bit of a,
Oh, yeah. No, my family came by, my mom and dad, because I'm an only child, so that's my family. Yeah. No, it was nice, yeah. I guess the highlight is that I got a Switch.
Oh, that's right, that you told me about this briefly.
Yeah, I should say that my parents are very nice, and they got, because like right now it's like the in between of Michael and my birthday, so it was kind of like a look. You're here, you poor children. Why don't we give you a nice birthday present?
You dweebs, we know you like the video games.
I know. My mom was like, now Caitie, this is her old woman voice now. Now Caitie, I know there's some gaming thing you like because you talk about it sometimes, but I don't remember what it is. So why don't you just go out and get it? Okay, mom. So that was like, they didn't surprise her. They're just like, let's just go to Target. Okay, mom.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great though. Yeah.
They're very sweet. I love them a lot. So yeah, we've been unfortunately I haven't been playing Greedfall as much because I've been playing Zelda.
Sure, yeah. No, that's a whole nother thing. I haven't been playing Greedfall either.
You've been throwing up.
That's true. So mainly because I was sick, but I want to mention this just very briefly. I don't want to go off on a whole tangent about it because I will if you let me.
I think okay, go on.
Splinter Cell.
Oh?
I've been playing 2002's Splinter Cell for the original Xbox.
This is not what I thought you were going to say.
No, it wasn't what I thought I was going to say either. And I don't know what else to say about it at this point except... long time ago, I wrote an article about Splinter Cell that was of some notoriety. It was probably one of the more popular things that I had ever written when I was blogging. And it got around. Like, it got around to the big sites, and people said very nice things about me because it was whatever. It was this political thing about, military excursionism in the Middle East and the intelligence agencies and glorification of that in video games, blah, blah, blah. And so I got a lot of play in the right circles at a certain point in time. When I go back now to play these games, and that's a whole nother story as to why, they're not how I remember them.
Really?
I think I was really fucking wrong about Splinter Cell, and that's a weird thing for me because I thought I had nailed my take all these years ago, and I'm like having a goddamn blogger's identity crisis because I feel like I was almost 100% wrong. And so
are you sure it's the right game? Like, are you thinking of a different Splinter Cell?
No, it's just the one. Well, there's a few of them, but yeah. So now, Caitie, because I've now had this identity crisis, I have to go back and play them all. I'm not like this is like a serious thing for me. So I beat the first one. I started Pandora tomorrow. I'm gonna play Chaos Theory, Double Agent. There's 2 different versions of Double Agent, which I never knew. because it was when the next gen came out, and so they developed an entirely different one with like different cutscenes and everything for the original Xbox and the Xbox 360. So I've got to track down this original Xbox version because I've never played it. I got to find that one. I got to play it too.
I feel like I'm hearing like the audio version of that one like meme image of Charlie from I forget what the show is, like on that like board of like crazy conspiracy theories, and he looks like insane, like I don't know what it is anymore. I don't know who I am.
I mean, look, I have been known to put to tape what are they called? Cue cards, or like the little cards onto my wall. I mean, there's actually some in my living room right now because that's what I do when I outline things. So if red string comes out in thumbtacks, I mean, I'm not really going to be sorry about that. I'm going to be real honest with you.
Thumbtacks! Your mic did the thing.
Yeah, it did, of course.
Well, so I will say the last podcast we did, there was someone's like, hey, look, they actually started talking about the topic like 6 minutes in. Today's topic that we're talking about is actually related. Well, I guess the other video games that you might like other than Dragon Age, because there was the September BioWare update from our good old Casey Hudson. Essentially mentioned Dragon Age 4 was still in pre-production, which like we knew, but we got our hopes up. Let's be real. Nothing was ever put out that was like, oh, maybe Dragon Age will only be out, this December. They're going to surprise us. Nah, that was just fan hopes. Like, we kind of knew. Let's be honest with ourselves, everybody. We're just too excited for it. So, because of that, it's like the Kotaku article said, 2 to 3 years away, maybe a bit more. Who knows? So, what are you going to do in the meantime?
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's the question that I generally do not know. Do you think I have enough content for 2 to 3 years worth of stuff? I think I do sometimes, and sometimes I don't. It's going to be interesting.
God, my immediate like joke answer was going to be no. Of course not. What are you, crazy? But then when I thought about it, I'm like, I don't know. You have a real knack for like pulling content out for Dragon Age. I mean, if anybody can do it, it's you.
I will say, so, because I've been reading Codex Entries, I tried to do at least 3 a week. I did take a little bit of a break during the Dragon Age Day thing, because that's the thing. But I sat down, and I counted out, if I continue on my pace, to just finish Dragon Age Inquisition, it's like 4 more years.
Oh, wow. So at least in that regard, you've got plenty.
Yeah, I got plenty of Codex Entries. I'll say that. But yeah, there's a lot of Codex Entries. And like I think I've made a small dent. I've been doing this for I think almost 2 years now. It's kind of crazy. So at the very least there'll be Codex Entries coming out on my channel. But that's the thing. Anyway, so I don't know how much prepping you did for this, but I there's not like, if we're trying to think of like if you really love Dragon, and I'm really talking about Dragon Age, I don't know if you want to add Mass Effect in this too, because it's going to be even longer for another Mass Effect game.
Yeah.
I essentially just sat down. I was like, okay, this is why I like the Dragon Age series. There's not, at least for me, another game that is the exact same thing. There's only games that have like a small part of why I like Dragon Age in them, like little sections. So I had sectioned off a whole list of games I have into those different parts that I like, and so I was going to discuss it like that. I don't know if you want to throw out a couple things. Like I don't know how you want to add yours in.
That makes perfect sense. I prepped for this podcast. I just said kale smoothie B12.
Okay, you're surviving.
I got myself into the chair. I don't sound like I'm dead necessarily. I sound crazy, but I don't sound dead. So I'm here. I'm ready.
Okay.
Your system sounds perfect, and there are a couple of things that I have off the top of my head, but you should probably go ahead and start since you have a little more prepped.
Okay, I'll take control of this one then. Guys, let's get ready. Okay, so I have 5 different like categories, and then like some other categories that we'll talk about. So I split it up into sort of the gameplay, but that's like a big asterisk there. Story, setting, and characters, and I liked it. And I don't know why. So we'll start with the gameplay. I guess when I mean gameplay for the asterisks, what I liked about the Dragon Age gameplay is that you can pause the gameplay when, like, really think about what you're doing. Something about that I really liked, because I always feel really stressed out in games like The Witcher or, other things where you can't pause the gameplay because I just get so overwhelmed and I just need to take a moment to pause. So I feel like I can't really think of another game that does it like Dragon Age, except for Greedfall, which I guess I haven't played enough of yet, so I didn't put it in this category. So I mostly have just tactics games here, and they're really like hardcore tactics, like way in the other direction to even what Origin is. So the first one I have on my list is Divinity Original Sin 2. So, because it's kind of, the gameplay is definitely like that tactics, almost like a chessboard type of thing, but it also has like a really rich story and characters, and I actually really liked it a lot. I think my only problem with the game is like if I think of Dragon Age Origins, like if I sit down and start a game, I know I'm going to be playing it for a while, and it's like if we liken this to relationships, it's playing a Dragon Age series, like the whole thing. I feel like I'm getting into a long-term relationship. It's kind of comfy. We're going to do it for a while. If I get into Divinity Original Sin 2, I feel like it's a fucking marriage, because that game is so long and there's so much stuff in it. And like I feel overwhelmed when I get into it at the first time. So like I've only played it once, and I technically haven't finished it, because when I got to like the last act of it, they re-updated the game to have a whole bunch of more new content, and like the saves were no longer compatible with the old game and the new game, and I'm like, I can't do it right now, so I just quit. So I really love the game. I really, really do, because it has like the fantasy, it has the characters, it has romances, I like the tactics gameplay, but I just get so overwhelmed with all the quests.
Yeah,
really
I mean, it's the prototypical RPG problem of like there's a lot to do, but also there's a lot to do.
There's a lot to do. Yeah, it's in a way like that's gonna be like a lot of people like that, but it's at least for me when I start a new game, it just feels so daunting that I just kind of stop, and like I just kind of want to be in like the middle of it when I've already finished like half of it, you know. So
yeah,
but I don't have any saves like that, so I can't do it. I don't know. So that's how you played Divinity, yeah?
Yes, yeah, both of them.
Yeah, no, I haven't played any of the others, so I can only personally recommend the second one, but like I hear the others are good too.
I like Divinity. I like it quite a bit. I like it probably for all of the same reasons that you do, but it is interesting because I feel like Divinity 1 and 2 exist with alongside this other game, which is Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they kind of cropped up around the same time. Those are sort of the two poster children, along with, I guess, Wasteland, for the return of like the CRPG or the tactics RPG type of game. And I just like Pillars so much more. So I think you probably hold up the Divinity side of the argument. I hold up the Pillar side. And also, when you talk about the gameplay and the combat, Pillars is basically like Dragon Age, right? I mean, it's really based out of those sort of Baldur's Gate era games. It's just locked into the isometric view. So unlike in Origins and 2 in Inquisition, you can't switch back and forth. When you're exploring, you're always in isometric. But the combat, it's real-time combat. So it's exactly like the Dragon Age combat, honestly.
Mm-hmm. See, I put that's going to be the ones later of things I heard recommended, but I haven't actually played. So yeah, I've heard it recommended. But yeah, I will say, like, I haven't played it yet, so maybe if I play it, I will be like, Divinity's great, but have you heard of Pillars?
Yeah.
So, yeah, as of right now, I actually got the first one, so I was gonna play through that eventually when I finish Greedfall. I have a big games backlog. So.
Oh, and yeah, speaking of big updates, Pillars 2 actually had an update where you can turn on, it's actually completely turn-based.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you can play it in real time or you can play it turn-based.
Oh, so if you really like turn-based games, then this is the update for you then.
Yeah, for sure.
Another one I had on here, this is like a really old Game Boy game, but I really liked it a lot, emulators, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance.
Oh, yeah.
I adored that game when I was a kid, and that I think that game really got me into gaming, so I had to throw it on there. But it's if you haven't actually played it, now I haven't actually played it, other Final Fantasy Tactics games except for Advance 2, which I wouldn't recommend, but that's another story. Anyway, but the gameplay is like you build a little team off of like randomly generated characters. And so for me, I got really attached to my little collection of bunny girls. I already forgot what the race is called. But but yeah, you make a team of like just really strong little battle members, and you go through a story. I thought the story was actually really interesting, especially considering like what it was. Like, I actually think the story was a lot more interesting than what the game gave it credit for, which I don't think you see that often. I don't want to spoil. I think one thing I do want to say for this episode, I don't want to spoil any of these games, so I'll be very vague. But if you haven't played it, I actually would strongly recommend it. And like, it's kind of childish, I'll say that, so it might be kind of hard to get into. But like, if you view what's going on as an adult, it actually becomes kind of horrifying, and that's really interesting to me. So I guess I would recommend that. Another thing I kind of played as a kid, not really, it's more like in college, but the Fire Emblem series. I know that's really popular right now because there's a new one for the Switch.
Oh yeah.
That's also tactics. Well, I guess it's people know my history, at least with anime, where I am not like a huge fan, and like Fire Emblem is definitely a JRPG. So like I like the gameplay enough, but like the story and some of the acting and things, I'm just not really fond of.
I'm with you 100%. I've always felt that way about Fire Emblem. I love the gameplay.
Yeah.
And I think maybe several years ago I could put up with the JRPG-ness of it a little bit more. At this point, I've kind of stopped trying. Like, I saw Final Fantasy 15, and I'm like, maybe I'll get into that. But when I watch like 15 minutes of gameplay, I'm like, nah, man, it's an anime. I can't get into this. So JRPG stuff I can't do, but Fire Emblem, you're right. It hits that sweet spot of party management and also like positioning on the battlefield. It's a little Dragon Age-esque in that way.
Yeah. So I really liked it for that. And the one I played the most was, oh fuck, I forgot what it is. I'm trying to look at my Game Boy case, see if I can remember it. It was the one for the 3DS. And hold on, let me just dig through this real quick.
I know the one too, because I was gonna say, is it the 3DS one? And that's the same one that I played.
Is it in my DS? Am I gonna get lucky? No, it's Animal Crossing. I don't know what I expected. My little games case is all the way bottom at the side. What was it? Like, it's not Heroes, right? That was the Heroes was the mobile game.
Yeah, I don't think it was Heroes.
Awakening. That's it.
There it was. Yep.
All right, Fire Emblem Awakening. Yeah, that's the one I played, and like that one has like, I don't know anything about the other Fire Emblems, to be honest, but Awakening had like little romances and stuff, and like your kid comes from the past. That was kind of funny.
Yep.
I kind of like that though, because I'm sappy. So I was like, oh it's my kid. I'm gonna fight with them. That's so cool. That's why I don't know. I found that kind of endearing. So I guess I liked that. Another, I guess, trying to think of like an indie title that has tactics. The Banner Saga. Have you ever played that?
I have not, but that's definitely one for me that's on the list of stuff that I've heard about that seems really cool.
Yeah, one thing you'll find from this list, I have a serial history of getting halfway through a game and then getting sidetracked and not finishing it. Unfortunately, Banner Saga is one of those. I accidentally killed a couple characters, and Banner Saga has permadeath, at least the first one. So I got frustrated and I didn't finish it. But it was really good. And I feel like normally with a lot of these fantasy games, it's kind of like the Lord of the Rings kind of fantasy, where like this one was more of like a Nordic fantasy, and I thought that was really cool. And like the artwork is beautiful, honestly. So if you're more into indies, I would definitely recommend that.
Well, while we're doing indies, I got to shout out Tyranny also by Obsidian, which is basically the same exact engine as Pillars, but I've never played Tyranny. I've heard nothing but good things about it. Apparently, it does really, really good stuff with choice in story and branching storylines. I've heard that it's one of the best choice story-driven games ever. I've just never played it, but it also plays very much like Pillars, which is very much like a Dragon Age Origins style combat.
Mm-hmm. So what's the setting? Is it like
it's fantasy, but it's also I'm having trouble recalling or describing exactly. I don't want to say Near Eastern, but it's not exactly the traditional high fantasy setting. Mm-hmm. You play a sort of like arbiter or governor of some sort that's like in a new region, and so the setup is that you're constantly passing judgments and making decisions, and that's sort of their entryway into the branching storyline stuff.
That's cool. This is a game I like, and I kind of put it in the gameplay series because like it is kind of tactical, but it's definitely unlike anything else on this list. And it's I think it's actually best with multiplayer with a couple people. The Civilization series.
Oh, okay.
I know that's kind of unusual in this list, but I did really like. I got Civ 5 a while ago for free during some event, and I played the shit out of the game. Like that was actually a lot of fun to like play that with a couple of friends. And like you play whatever country, and like you're trying to like go against your friends or even like NPCs. So if you're maybe looking for something tactical but also with friends, well, you could also do that with Divinity. But if you, I would also suggest Civilization because it's probably pretty cheap right now because it's an old game. And I think there's the sixth one came out too. So yeah, that's my like tactical gameplay. If you want something more like Inquisition or Dragon Age 2, I the only thing I can even think about that's even close is Greedfall that just came out. And even that's a lot different.
I mean, Greedfall's definitely more modern. Before I would bump Greedfall, though, I said we got to give a shout out to Neverwinter Nights. Because in particular, Neverwinter Nights 2, even though it was made by Obsidian, it was really... Right, because it goes Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, and then finally BioWare gets into Dragon Age. I feel like Neverwinter Nights 2 in particular is like a beta version of Dragon Age if you look up gameplay for it, even though I never beat that game. The Neverwinter Nights 2 was kind of in a stage of like, I played it at the time, but I wasn't fully into RPGs at that point in time. Mm-hmm. So it never clicked with me and I've never gone back. But I think clearly when you look at Neverwinter Nights 2, it's like, oh, well, this is just Dragon Age Origins, slightly before Dragon Age Origins.
See, that went under my haven't played it category. That one I actually own, so I have to go play that. But yeah, that I hear a lot of good things. And again, I do actually think there's a lot of it's either Boulder Gates or Neverwinter Whites. They like you. There's actually a lot of references to them in the Dragon Age series. So one thing that'd be kind of interesting if you really like the Dragon Age series and you want to get some references you probably didn't get because you haven't played Neverwinter Nights or Baldur's Gate. You can go do that. So maybe that's what you want to go do. So then the next little subsection I have is the story. I guess when I read story, I want something that's kind of deeper. And like these are just games that got me interested to the world around them. And like I thought maybe some of them are indie games and kind of like a shorter story, but it hooked me in a way. And I guess like the best thing I can do is just give games that hooked me, and hopefully they'll hook you. So that's kind of what I read into this. The first one I put on here was actually Dishonored.
I love Dishonored.
Something about the well, I don't know if I should spoil it, but I also forgot the character's name. But there's like the Outsider. There it is. Something about the Outsider I just found so intriguing that I loved it a lot. And I haven't actually played the second game, and apparently, or any of the DLCs. I've just played the base game. I really want to do that. But something about the Outsider and like the lore around that, and like a lot of the imagery, I found so intriguing. I was really obsessed with it for like a couple months there before I found Dragon Age. So if you, and I don't even think it really has any similarities to the world of Dragon Age, but it's one of the few games that has definitely like got me really interested to like what's going on in the background, and they don't really bring that much attention to it either. It's just kind of like there's this weird thing that's going on, and it is very weird, and you're going to be interested in it, but we're really not going to talk about it that much. And something about that just made me go, oh, but I want to know about it so bad.
Yeah.
So did you think that was interesting, or you're not that into it?
I loved Dishonored. It's so weird though that the thing that got you was the Outsider. I hated the Outsider. I felt like he was I felt like he was annoying, and I sort of had the exact opposite reaction of this whole sort of like every time he popped up, it felt like I'm dark and spooky. And I'm like, you're not that fucking dark and spooky, bro. Get out of here. I'm not scared of you. So I kind of had like the opposite reaction to the Outsider, but I loved Corvo, and I loved what's her name, Chloe Grace Moretz's character, the princess, like that connection, and sort of like that story of vengeance. I loved it. The Victorian, I guess slightly maybe post-Victorian era, like not quite steampunk, but I don't know, like sci-fi, fantasy, Victorian era setting. I just dug it. I loved it.
Yeah, the setting is amazing. I really do love that a lot. But which I almost put this in the setting category that's coming up next. But I really liked the weird story behind it, and like eventually I do want to play the second one because you do play as the little girl who I can't remember her name. But yeah, no, I get I maybe because like. I guess I don't know why I liked it as much as I did, and then you hated it. I got nothing to defend. Maybe because, like, I know as a teenager that I would have been all over that shit. So, like, maybe there was, like, something nostalgic about it. I guess that's the best reasoning I could come behind.
Yeah, no, I just thought the story was really well written. There's choice. Like, there's elements of you getting to choose what to do. Yeah. The ending is different. Also, I mean, as far as comparisons to BioWare games, it's not a good comparison gameplay-wise because it's like nothing BioWare's ever done. But
yes.
I mean, as I just mentioned with Splinter Cell, I love stealth games. And I loved Dishonored's gameplay. I thought it was one of the most satisfying stealth games ever. I think it goes right up there with the original Thief, Metal Gear Solid 2, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. I think it's one of the best stealth games ever.
Yes, and to people who played Dragon Age 2 and are thinking of Mark of the Assassin stealth, it's nothing like that. Like, it's not...
That's not a stealth game.
This is a good stealth game. So, and you also don't have to play stealth.
No, you can just dismantle everybody, and it's super satisfying as an action game.
But it affects the story, which I think is amazing about it.
I do, and it's not open world at all, but it is as far as the freedom to climb up a building, sneak into the window, or sneak into the back door, or kill the guard at the front door. Like, you have so many options. It's so satisfying.
Yes. It's also an older game, so if you're a gamer on the budget, perfect for you.
Yeah, I want to say even the second one, which also I've been meaning to play it. I own the second one, still haven't got around to it. They should both be pretty cheap.
Yeah, I think the second one came out like not long after Inquisition. Am I remembering correctly? Like,
it's been a minute, but good pick though. Yeah. Good on you for Dishonored, because that I would not have thought of that. But you're right, as far as the choice and consequence and stuff like that's very satisfying.
Another one that, because I just went through my Steam library and put everything I like down here. The Wolf Among Us is probably the only Telltale game I've ever liked.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I guess I didn't play. I watched some people play it, but like The Wolf Among Us, I actually really dug. To the point where it's actually based on a comic, and I actually bought the first couple issues of the comic, and I actually really liked that a lot. So maybe I'm just saying, like, get into the comic series because the comics are cool. But yeah, no, Wolf Among Us. Unfortunately, it does end on a cliffhanger, and now Telltale is gone. So, and they even hinted Wolf Among Us 2, and I'm so pissed. Like, they had to ruin your company. Anyway, but if you just want something like short, because it which I will say, I don't know how you're gonna buy it now. I don't even know if you can you buy it now still? Because Telltale.
Oh yeah, no, somebody bought up all the rights. It's a whole controversy because they're calling themselves Telltale and they're not really the same people, but it's for sale. Yeah. Okay,
well, buy it or not as you wish. But I actually really liked that one. And I think, like, even if you don't like The Wolf Among Us, like, if you really like choice and consequences, I think Telltale games are actually pretty good with that.
I completely agree. I love Walking Dead series personally. It's very near and dear to my heart. I think it's far surpassed the latter seasons of the show easily, and so that became my Walking Dead, quite honestly.
I guess I wasn't as fond of The Walking Dead because, like, I just don't like zombie things. I don't like horror, and I don't like zombie everything just feels like despair, and I really hated that.
Yeah.
And so the Wolf Among Us was it had, I think it was the second Telltale game. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So not game, but like in their current lineup of what you think a Telltale game is, but it's I liked that it was kind of a mystery, and it has like this weird fantasy setting of like fairy tales, but in the real world, and like I really was actually drawn to that. So yeah, if I would recommend play that, and if you like that and you're sad that it it technically ended because something happened to Telltale, at least go get the comic books because they're actually pretty good. Have not finished it, but that because I honestly, the timeline is I got really into Wolf Among Us. I realized the game wasn't coming too soon, so I was like, well, maybe I should play something else. So I played Dragon Age, and that, such as so. Whoops. Another. So now I have like a collection of indie games. Have you ever played Dear Esther?
No.
Dear Esther is a walking simulator. Like, there is no gameplay other than walking. But it is beautiful, and I really liked it. And the music, I have the soundtrack, it's amazing. Dear Esther is, you essentially just walk around an island and listen to the story of a man and his wife, I think. It's been a couple years. But it's honestly a beautiful little game. Like, I think I was able to knock it out in an hour or two. And it's kind of have like a spooky feel to it, and you're the only one on this island, but is that a ghost? Is it not? You don't know. Like, and it's really, and it's really moving. So I guess if you just want kind of you have 2 hours to kill, and you just kind of want a story that'll make you maybe tear up a little bit, something that's like a little bit romantic, play Dear Esther. It's a really good little indie game. Another one that's like sort of like that, but there's actually a game behind it, is Little Inferno. Have you played that one?
I have not. No.
So Little Inferno, the gameplay starts out as like a silly little kids game where you burn things. You buy things and you burn things.
Interesting.
And as you continually buy things and burn things, you'll get letters from people. And it's essentially, well, I guess I don't want to say what the main plot of it is, but like it takes a turn near the end, and it's silly. It makes, as someone who like sits in their house a lot in games, it kind of gave me a lot of feelings about that, and I want to keep this as vague as possible to keep the surprise. But I really liked the ending. I still think about it a lot. There's not a lot of like small little indie games where you just do like some stupid bullshit like burn things for like a couple hours that the ending I still think about. So I wanted to recommend that out. There's not a lot of choice and consequences. It's just like, I thought, a nice little it makes you look at your life a little. At least it did for me. So I guess I would recommend that. Another one I have down here, which I think is these last two are definitely not choice and consequences game. Transistor. Have you played Transistor?
I have not, but I've heard you told me about it actually.
Yes, I love Transistor. Transistor was it's a little bit more tactical in the gameplay. It's tactical, but it's not. It's kind of funky like that. But that one, another game where the music is wonderful, the art style is beautiful. It's by the same people who did Bastion. So if you played that, it's like that same type of quality. And yeah, it was also pretty short. I think I knocked it out in like 5 hours. I think maybe more than that. But yeah, it's a cute little game. The story is also really sad, but also heartwarming at the end. It's like this weird mix of that, and it's also one of the few games on this list where like you play as a woman, which I really liked. So if you're looking for a game where you're like, look, I'm just tired of all these wieners, Transistor. That's for you.
I'm surprised that wasn't the marketing campaign. Transistor, if you're tired of all these wieners.
It's true though. So another game I liked. This one Michael actually got me on when we were in college. Have you ever heard of a game called Braid?
Yeah, Braid's great.
I love Braid. Yeah, Braid is like, it's something. It starts off as something and it ends. It blows your mind at the end because you're like, oh shit.
There's a plot twist.
Plot twist. So that's another good little story game. But yeah, that's those were, I guess, the ones I thought were best at the story. There's like Skyrim I was going to have next in like the setting thing, because like I wasn't really into the story of Skyrim, but I think the setting of fantasy is really cool. Did you have any like other games that you could think of that were like really strong story games, or anything with choice and consequences that were good that you liked?
I mean, that's an interesting distinction there, is the choice and consequence, because I feel like, you named a couple where you openly say like, yeah, not really a lot of choice, but the story's good.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I've realized that I think all of your categories make sense. I think the one thing for me that is most important is choice and consequence. Like when I realize why I like spiders games like Technomancer and Greedfall and all these other stuff, like all I care about is choices in branching storylines. Like that is the biggest thing for me. Party members are nice. I like to have party members, although a few games actually do that correctly. But choice and consequence is the number one thing for me. Obviously, I would say Technomancer, which I talked about at length, is very, very good at that. Greedfall, which we're both kind of starting, is very good at that. A game that I repped really hard when it came out in early 2018 was Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Oh, yeah.
which is another great example of like a double A game where it has a lot of jank. Don't get me wrong, you're going to have technical issues. It's optimized like crap. You can have the strongest system ever. You're never going to get 60 frames on that game.
Uh-huh.
But it's great at choice. Like there are multiple endings to just about every single quest that you can do. You feel like you have a strong amount of autonomy as Henry, and it's a real coming of age story. Like you feel really helpless and powerless at the beginning, and you feel pretty badass, but still in a grounded, realistic way by the end of that game. And yeah, so as far as choice is concerned, I would highly recommend that. In particular, there is one part of the main quest where you need to get into a monastery.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of ways that you can get into this monastery are absolutely ridiculous. You can just kill everyone and get in there and get what you need, or you can go on like a 4-hour diversion of like this entire plot line inside of the monastery. Or you can just sneak in there with stealth skills, or you can kind of go in undercover and then do it the quick way. But like if you go through the most careful way possible, it can legitimately take you a few hours to follow the entire quest line of like living inside the monastery as a monk.
Wow.
As you're, yeah, it's really crazy. There were even memes on the subreddit going like, "This is the true game. They should have made the entire game about this." And I almost agree with them. It's a very, very interesting part of the game, and it just goes, and you can totally bypass it by just finding another way into the monastery. It's totally optional content. I love Kingdom Come Deliverance for that reason.
Oh god, what was it called? Fable, I heard, was really good for choice and consequences, but I never actually played it.
Oh yeah, I played all the Fables. That's another old school one that I definitely think is Fable is like the prototype in a lot of ways, even though it came out. If you place it in a timeline on BioWare's catalog, it came out after Baldur's Gate. It came out around the time of Neverwinter Nights, or after Neverwinter Nights. So it predates Dragon Age a little bit. The only thing about Fable is that if you play it now, those choices are going to feel really binary. You're either comically evil or like a paragon of niceness. That was sort of like to sort of showcase the distinction, but I think the more modern thing to do is to have shades of gray. Like Greedfall is doing a great job of that, whereas the Fable stuff is going to feel really kind of almost cartoony as far as like how evil you are.
Yeah.
Like at one point, it's literally like steal candy from a child evil, or like give them a teddy bear. It's like really, really.
I can see some people thinking that fun though.
It's funny, yeah. It's definitely tongue in cheek.
Yeah. So I can see that having an audience. Okay, so I guess I'll move on to the next one, which is setting. Obviously Skyrim or any of the Elder Scrolls. I only played Skyrim. I did try to play Oblivion, but at that point, like, it had aged a lot, and like it just wasn't, the nostalgia wasn't there for me. So I went with Skyrim.
Yeah.
Skyrim is interesting because I feel like I played it in 2014. And I played as much as I could, which I didn't actually finish the main story. I just did all of the guild quests.
That's what everyone does. That's the best part.
Yeah, I didn't give a shit about the main quest. And then I kind of stopped and never really played again. I did try because like the modding scene is insane. Like I feel like that game's going to be eternal because anyone can make a mod for it and do whatever. Like
yeah,
there is some absolutely nuts mods out for Skyrim. So I guess, yeah, if you liked Skyrim well enough, but you played to the full extent, try out some mods, because there's some crazy bullshit out there. Like, just whole new storylines, whole new maps, whatever the fuck.
It's huge, yeah.
People do it. Yeah, so that's one. And I feel like I don't really want to talk about Skyrim that much, because it's like, everyone knows Skyrim, right? It's like one of the most... Is it the best-selling game ever? Because I would put money on it.
No, but it's the best-selling RPG. There's nothing else even close. The stuff that outsells it is basically Pokemon and Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Another setting, I put Greedfall here in the setting because like I haven't really played it enough to put it in any other category, but it is kind of like that the Final Fantasy setting that it does have some Victorian elements that Dragon Age doesn't have, but yeah, it kind of gives me the same magical feeling, I guess. The next one the next one I have on here is really any Legend of Zelda game, but I said Twilight Princess specifically because I have a lot of nostalgia for that. But I feel like everyone has nostalgia for like a certain Zelda game, because I think most people grew up with one of those.
Yeah, Ocarina has a ton of nostalgia, but also Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess was right around, let's see, I would have been 17 or 18 when that came out. So that was kind of one of those last, before you get into adulthood. So that one kind of stuck with me a lot. But also Breath of the Wild is probably better than all of them.
Yeah, I recently got a Switch and I've been playing with Michael, and it is very good. Yeah, I will say, we briefly mentioned it on the voiceover episodes. Now that I've actually gotten more exposure to the voice acting in Legend of Zelda, Jordan, I hate it. I hate it. It's not that the people were bad. I just think they're miscast.
Like how so? Which one?
We just finished the Zora area, and the Prince Sidon or whatever, he does not sound like how I thought he would. At all.
Yeah, I mean, Legend of Zelda stuff, the voice acting has never really been the draw, so I can't really argue with you.
Well, I think is this the first one with voice acting? I don't know. Like, I'm so used to like other Zelda games where they'll have like a hey ho or whatever, and then it's you have to read what they say. I'm used to that, and I prefer that. And like there was at one point the Zora princess was talking to us, and but you couldn't see her, and Michael and I honestly could not tell if it was Zelda or the other girl. It sounded too similar. So
it's infrequent, at least. Like there is a fair bit of reading, and I feel like a lot of the characters aren't fully voiced. Like they some of their key moments are voiced, and I guess that's kind of for the better.
Yeah, I would have much preferred they all not be voiced. Like, because it's weird. Like, I think some of the grunts can sometimes work, but like when like the king of Hyrule or whatever, you talking to him, I thought he sounded one way based on like the grunts he makes, and then he starts talking, and it was something I was not expecting at all. It's like, whoa, you sound like what?
Uh-huh.
And like it wasn't like bad. It just wasn't what I was expecting.
Sure.
And kind of disappointed, even. You know. So I don't know. I'm not a big, but other than that, no, Breath of the Wild has been great. We've been having a lot of fun. Like, apparently I'm the type of, I've been calling it stupid. I don't know what you want, but like Michael will be doing a puzzle. He's like, I don't know how to solve it. And I'll say some like stupid idea and it ends up working. Like we saw a pile of leaves and Michael tried to blow it away. He's like, I think like a little kokari, whatever it is, seeds in here. And I don't know what to do. I'm like, why don't you set it on fire? He's like, I don't want to set him on fire. I'm like, just set it on fire. And sure enough, it set it on fire, and he unlocked the thing.
I think the word for that is smart. I don't think that's...
But I feel like they're really dumb ideas at the time.
I don't think the ability to solve problems is categorized as stupid. I think you...
But like I feel like it's a stupid idea at the time. Like I'm saying out the dumbest idea I can think of, and it ends up being right. But like in a fun way.
But I think that's that is a real staple of why Breath of the Wild is so good. Like I spent a long time, very very early on in the game, when you need to get to one of the first 3 shrines, and one of them is clearly in an area that's too cold. And so I did what I thought it was probably what most people do, was you find the guy, he offers to give you a jacket if you can make the spicy seafood dish or whatever. So like I went out and found all the ingredients and figured out how to make it and got the jacket, and now I'm good. And then when I was listening to someone at Game Informer talk about it, they're like, I never did any of that. I just had my torch out and that kept me warm, so I just walked through the whole way.
There you go.
And I was like, that's so, I mean, I guess, again, to borrow your vernacular, it's so dumb, but it works. Like it's so... Like the game really sort of rewards simple but also complex thinking. Like if you want to approach it in either way, it's going to work. And I love that about Breath of the Wild. Yeah.
So I don't know if you'd call that choice and consequence, but like I don't know. Like it's
in a way.
In a way, yeah. But no, I guess I would recommend Breath of the Wild. So yeah, that's I can't really think of anything where like just the setting is a fantasy. Oh, maybe like Dragon's Dogma or something. I didn't play that though. Michael did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know much about that, but yeah.
I think the Fallout settings are very interesting. I do when you mentioned the thing about zombie games, about how it feels like gloom. I can relate to that. Like, I can get into a Fallout game, but at a certain point, I get fatigued from how dreary everything is. I think Fallout 4 helped a little bit because their color palette was so much more varied. They actually had color. It wasn't just brown and green.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think that their actual writing and as far as the plot leaves a lot to be desired, but I still think that environment is rife with opportunity.
I guess, see, I just really, not that I don't like guns, I just don't like, guns bore me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, like, guns in video games, automatically I'm sleeping. Like, easily the worst part of Mass Effect for me was the gameplay. I'm like, I have to go shoot things now. So, and, like, I know I'm the minority here. But, yeah, it's like I played Fallout 4 specifically, and granted, Fallout 4 had its own list of problems, but other than making me a bit barfy, what I really didn't like about it was that I just had to shoot things all the time. I'm like, ugh, guns.
Caitie, if you've never done a melee build in Fallout 4...
I tried it. I was just really bad at it. And so I died a lot, and I just got frustrated.
Oh, really?
And then also I got the game for some. I can't think of another game that has this problem other than Fallout 76. I get barfy. I just get so barfy, and I don't know why. Like and even I like try to like zoom out the camera because like sometimes first person can make people kind of vomity. So if you see the character moving, it gets better. No, still got barfy. I don't know why. I don't know what is about it.
How interesting and also terrible. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, so I just have to, because I thought like maybe 76, like, well, I got barfy with Fallout 4s, and like, I know 76 was a disaster, but a lot of my friends were playing it, so maybe we can play this disaster together, and I was trying to play it. I was like, I'm just getting barfy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why. So, yeah, I guess that was my experience with the Fallout games. And I didn't get that way with Skyrim. It was so weird.
How interesting. That is very curious.
I don't know. If anyone's listening to this and knows why I got barfy and knows a fix for it, please tell me. Because I tried so many things, like the changing like the video settings, and like nothing seemed to stick. I just got different variants of barfy. So, I don't know. Never got like that with any other game. So, anyway, so the next category I have is characters. Games that I think really shine in their characters. I obviously put the Mass Effect series here because that's what I remember of Mass Effect the most is the characters. But we've talked ad nauseum about that, so I'm going to skip that one over. The next one I have here is The Witcher 3.
Great pick, yeah.
Yeah, but not the other Witcher games. I didn't play 2. I hate 1. But
Kalkstein, the amazing character of Kalkstein, did not stick with you? Isn't he memorable, Caitie?
He's memorable in my nightmares, I'll say that.
He is the most memorable character of the entire franchise in the worst way possible.
Just his I honestly thought he was a monkey. Like, this is like Planet of the Apes. Because it's a fantasy setting. I know there's different like fantasy races. It's like, okay, I guess there's just some Polish myth about monkey people.
All right.
Okay, no, he's supposed to look like a human.
Kind of. There is a thing with him where it doesn't matter, but yeah, mostly
there's like
human.
He's mostly human. He's supposed to look human adjacent at least, but no, it doesn't. It doesn't look good. But yeah, no. Back to Witcher 3. I really, really, really love the dynamic of Geralt and Ciri, that like father-daughter relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that. I also liked the because there is a romance you could choose between a whole series of women, but the the mainstay is Yennefer or Triss. And I kind of liked it really did feel like you were a divorced dad who can either get back with your ex-wife or the hot young thing. Like, that's really what it felt like to me.
Is that what it felt like?
For me, yeah.
Wait, which one is the hot young thing? They both look 29.
Well, no, like, because Gerald and Yennefer had like this history together.
Yeah,
and
right.
Like, Yennefer definitely had like this mother-daughter relationship with Ciri. So it really did felt like the trio of you were a little family. And then you lost your memory. Triss slept with you. Yennefer's really hurt with that. And like it just felt like that dynamic.
Oh, see that is a thing that is exclusively in the games.
Yeah,
see, that's hard for me to get into that because you just recounted what happens in the video games, which chronologically are after the books, which kind of doesn't make sense, but it does. In the books, Triss is with Ciri and Geralt as well, and she also takes on sort of the mother, I guess more like a big sister, but it's the exact same dynamic with Triss, so I never saw those two things as being separate or opposed, but you're right, they do kind of play it that way, in particular in Witcher 3.
Mm-hmm. I know in The Witcher 3 they definitely like build up Triss as like I think she even calls Ciri little sis at one point.
I think so, yeah.
When they reunite. So yeah, like it's for me. I will also say like I just didn't like Triss for reasons.
How
over there.
dare you?
Oh, are you a Triss romancer?
I mean, honestly, I think the canon should be Yennefer, just because the books and everything. That's what it should be. But Triss is awesome. She's fun.
Wrong. False.
Triss is fun. Triss is great.
No, I hate her.
She's got red hair. She's exciting.
She slept with you when you lost your memory because she liked your dick so much and screwed over her friend. Fuck Triss.
Look, she wanted some of that albino Witcher dick. You can't blame her.
She wanted to have sex and not get pregnant. No. Anyway, but yeah, I will say, as much as I did really like that family dynamic or whatever, The Witcher 3, I have seen a lot of people, specifically women, really not like The Witcher 3 because Geralt, everyone wants to sleep with Geralt. Everyone wants to fuck Geralt.
It's true.
And even for me and Michael, because we were trying to play kind of a chastity Geralt who was only for Triss. How many quests that we had that we couldn't complete because we didn't fuck somebody? So many. Like Kiera tried to, I think that's her name, like tried to like go on a date with Kira there. Kira tried to go on a date with us.
Kira's hot as fuck. Like, no. What do you got against blondes?
Yeah, she's hot as fuck, fine, but like
also she betrays you.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
she does. She straight up betrays you. And then she runs off with Lambert also.
Oh, fuck Lambert.
Oh, Lambert's my boy. What do you got against Lambert?
He's an asshole.
Yeah, that's why he's my boy.
What? You have all the wrong. You have all the wrong.
When Lambert ran off with the crazy chick that betrays everybody, I'm like, all right, fist bump, solitaire.
I mean, yeah, that's totally for him. Also, we totally spoiled all of this. We did. we said we wouldn't do spoilers, and look what we're doing. But yeah, despite everyone wanting to fuck Geralt and me being kind of annoyed with it, and it definitely is that like male fantasy that people talk about because everyone like there's this guy that like I guess he looks all right. He is kind of, grizzled whatever, but like not everyone's going to want to fuck some weirdo with yellow eyes. You know what I mean?
Also, he's supposed to look hideous. Like they kept making him look more and more handsome in each game. He's supposed to be a mutant. He's supposed to have like really weird looking and horrible facial scars, and he's not supposed to be handsome.
Yeah, so the fact that everyone wants to fuck him makes it even more confusing for me. So I could totally see why people are annoyed with that, and if that's your reason not to play it, I totally get it. But despite all of that, I still liked it, which I think speaks of something. And I do think like this like everyone talks about how great the side quest is because every side quest has something interesting about it for the most part.
I still can't believe you besmirched the honorable name of Triss. I can't.
Triss. I'll say it again. I'll put it on my gravestone.
No, look, Triss. First of all, Yennefer left. Yennefer left Geralt. She abandoned Ciri. She abandoned everyone. Triss was there when Yennefer was gone. She was the one holding.
But what was
together.
Yennefer doing?
Being a part of the lodge and trying to be powerful and fucking.
How dare she have a career? You just don't like career women.
This is such a good argument. I love it. Like, no, don't get me wrong. It is fucked up that Triss slept with Geralt, even though she knew that blah, blah, blah. But, like, I love the drama of it because from Triss's perspective, she really is like, I care about you more. Like, Yennefer always fucking is ready to drop you at the drop of a hat. Like, I'm the one who's always been here. And she's always been a little bit upset that she's in Yennefer's shadow. Like, Yennefer is the most powerful sorceress. She's really the leader of the lodge. Everyone is jealous of her. And Triss is reasonably, almost just as talented as Yennefer, but she never gets the same credit. Mm-hmm. So it's totally fucked up, but you can see why she would want to sleep with Geralt, right? Like take the most popular girl in school's boyfriend kind of a thing. It's fucked up, but I love the drama of it.
But so to get back to the topic, because we have just spent 5 or 10 minutes here discussing the characters of The Witcher, which I think just speaks to how great these characters are.
We didn't even talk about Shani. Shani's great as a romance, for the DLC.
Oh, fuck Shani. Shani's
the
weird
best.
Too. No.
She's a doctor. She's smart.
I don't care. I didn't like her. Because she was still hey, you want to sleep with me? No. Who are you?
Well, it's like, I guess if that's the thing, right? Like from the books, and also she's in the first game, so like there was a nostalgia factor there.
Yeah, she's even worse in the first game.
Well, yeah, you show up to a room and she's like in lingerie, and you're like,
in lingerie.
whoa.
You can see the nipples. I'm like, look, I just want to. I'm sorry. I thought I knocked. Like,
I just want to complete this quest.
I just want to complete this quest. Please put your clothes back on, Johnny. No, that weirds me out. That
is one of those things where, as a female gamer, you just have a perspective that I think is lost on so many male gamers, right? Like, if I'm a dude and I just want to complete a side quest, but I have to stare at a dude's dick, like, that makes no sense. Do you know what I mean?
That's how I feel. I'm like,
right.
Why do I have to look at titties right now?
Right. It's just sort of strange. But I like Shani. I think she's great.
Nah. But we can all agree. I believe his name's Regis is the best.
Oh, Regis is phenomenal. Everybody loves Regis.
Oh, he's great. Anyway, we're getting sidetracked. Maybe we need to have a Witcher 3 episode.
I'm telling you.
Oh, okay. Another thing with characters. Another game. This is a game I really liked as a childhood, and I'm putting it on here because I know people have fans. But I think looking back on it, it is extremely campy. Final Fantasy X. I loved it as a kid, and me as a 10-year-old thought that was the coolest shit ever. It is definitely, when you look back on it now, extremely campy and, like, kind of cringy at some parts. But something about it for me is very nostalgic, and, like, especially the ending I still think about a lot. And, like, the little 10-year-old me is like, what? They wanted to be together! like,
sure.
I guess if you like the Sylvain romance, play Final Fantasy X. That's...
Okay.
That's my tip for you. I was on a path for Solus way before I knew it. I think a lot of people really like the Final Fantasy series. I will say that as an adult, though, Final Fantasy series has definitely, like, it's JRPGs. And now that as an adult, I think I've grown past. Not to say that people who are adults can't like JRPGs.
I'll say that.
No, I won't. But
the comments are going to come after me hard.
How dare you? No, I just can't get into it anymore because I feel like they are aimed at, like, a younger person.
Children.
And being older. Yeah, they're aimed at kids. And now that I'm not that teenager saving the world, I just, like, I'm in, like, all the, like, I feel like the villain roles now. Like, you can't do that. You're too young. I agree with them now.
Yeah.
I'm old. So, yeah, it does kind of feel weird playing, teenagers trying to save the world. At the very least, Final Fantasy X has, like, people in their late 20s, so I can at least stand by a recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
But I hear, like, 7 was good. I just never played it. Which, there's going to be a remake of Final Fantasy 7 out eventually. So,
yeah.
I hear good things about Final Fantasy 15, but a boy band and a car road trip just seems cool to me. But maybe it will you. I don't know. So yeah, another thing with, like, if you just like characters and romances, Stardew Valley, I really liked. I know it's kind of, like, different from everything we've just talked about, but, like, I think I really liked, the kind of, like, calm farming games. That's really nice. But what Stardew Valley does so much better than, like, any of the Harvest Moons is that the characters in it are actually kind of interesting, and there's, like, a grittiness to it. Like, there's references to, like, alcoholism and depression and, like, all sorts of, like, really real topics.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked that playing it as an adult. It's exactly what I wanted to play as an adult who wanted to go back to Harvest Moon. So if you kind of liked Harvest Moon as a kid, but, like, there's some parts that clunked, it was all fixed in Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is is the best Harvest Moon game that wasn't made. So, do you have any other games that are, like, had some really solid characters that I forgot to mention?
No, but I do want to go back a little bit to just rapid fire a couple on choice and consequence in story, because that's a huge thing for me, and there's so many that I think deserve shout out. So number one, Deus Ex, the entire franchise. It's great. It's science fiction, not fantasy, so probably more of a Mass Effect adjacent than Dragon Age, but that actually also has, because it's a stealth game as well, will also scratch some of that itch as far as, like, there's choice as far as lethality and non-lethality and approaches to missions, but there's also dialogue choice, investigation choice, which side of what group that you side with, and just overall how a side quest is going to end. Human Revolution is the one that is, other than the first two Deus Ex, Human Revolution is the more modern one that people kind of lean towards, but Mankind Divided got a bad rap. It's not as bad as people say. It's quite good. We talked about Fallout. okay, Fallout 4, whatever it is with the writing, the setting, hit or miss. Fallout New Vegas is phenomenal for choice and consequence. It is not my favorite game. I am not a big Fallout person. I do not love New Vegas as much as everyone else does. But the simple fact of the matter is, you can make a lot of choices. There are many factions. Sometimes I think there's actually too many to like fully appreciate all of their individual storylines. But the amount of endings that game has because of the different factions, it's incredibly thorough and incredibly satisfying. And I think it just it's one of those that definitely deserves mention. Another one, Alpha Protocol, also made by Obsidian. That game has got to be one of the more underrated RPGs of the last, I don't know, when it came out, probably, let's say the last 10 years, because gameplay-wise, it sucks. It's bad. The third-person action shooting is terrible. The stealth is basically dumb. It's really tough to get through from the gameplay standpoint, but their dialogue system is one of the best dialogue systems ever. It's very reminiscent to Mass Effect, but it doesn't have that predictability as far as the right and the left side, up and down. Trying to be nice to a character can flat out backfire. Trying to intimidate people can backfire even when you think that it should. It's very counterintuitive. It always makes sense. And when you really think about why that dialogue option failed, it always makes sense, but it's very counterintuitive to what your surface level instincts might tell you. And it also doesn't have like the icons or the the persuade options. It's literally just here's some options that you can read through, decide what you want to say. It's timed, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it should be timed as well. So you've only got so much time to pick your response. The character interactions as well, building trust with certain people. Very, very well done. I really, really love the character interactions, the trust system, and the dialogue system in Alpha Protocol. Another one that I'll throw out there, it's kind of unusual for choice, but I really, really like the new Hitman games.
Oh, really?
And that's another one where it kind of got me thinking in the same way as Dishonored and Deus Ex, as far as like it's just like, it's just basically a stealth game, but there are so many options in Hitman to any given mission. If you like the experience of doing something one way and then reloading and trying it another way, Hitman is basically infinite for that. I mean, it's near infinite. There's a billion different ways to complete objectives. And so it's almost just like a very small little sandbox each level as far as how you want to experiment in taking out enemies. So yeah, I mean, as far as the story, it's a pretty simplistic story, and to be totally honest, but it's definitely one that I would throw in there as well. And then also, choice and consequence. This one might kind of surprise some people, but if you've played it, you know why I'm putting it on here. Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2, like going into it, I didn't even realize that there would be choices in that way. And they're not frequent, I should say. Like, if you're expecting it at the end of every mission or something like that, that's totally not what it is. It's really mainly in the back half of the game where you get to make a series, maybe several. I'd say there might even only be like a dozen missions, if that, where you can actually choose something at the end. But depending on how you made choices throughout the game, it will have different endings. And I thought I would really, really appreciate that. And the decisions that you're making in Red Dead Redemption 2, without spoiling anything, like those few handful of decisions felt more powerful than, twice that number of actual choices in other RPGs. Like, they felt like they had huge weight. The character of Arthur Morgan is not a character that you get to define fully like in an RPG. You're not choosing what he does mission to mission. He's kind of a set character, but you get to feel like you have a huge say in how his story ultimately ends. And that feels really, really special. He's lived a hard life, Arthur Morgan, and you really get to make decisions that either way they feel justified and either way they feel kind of sad. But it's sort of like a little, you can sort of give him a chance to define himself in defiance of the fact that he's sort of locked into this track that he can't get off of. And that feels pretty special. So I would definitely throw Red Dead Redemption 2 in there for choice also.
Okay. So the next category I have really has nothing to do with Dragon. This is going to be a rapid fire thing. really nothing to do with Dragon Age. I just liked it for some reason. So this is a good category for anything. I like Animal Crossing. Let's put these in quick little categories. Things I liked because I had a lot of customization, because I know some people in Dragon Age do like that. Animal Crossing, The Sims, Don't Starve, because you can make your own little base building. I liked all three of those a lot. Saints Row, sort of like that too. My favorite was 3. 4 is also good. I haven't played the other ones. Saints Row has a lot of like elements to RPGs, but it's all like humorous.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even though there is like guns and shooting, it's so strange. And like you can have a dildo sword, you know? It's there's a lot of strange weapons. Like, I know the 4th one has a dubstep gun, where you shoot it at people and they dance to death. That's hilarious. You know,
yeah.
like, I actually really liked. I do think 4, it lets you have like superpowers, and I think it kind of like breaks the game a little. But in 3, I think it's like right where they like it's the sweet spot.
Uh-huh.
But because you make a little character, and like the character creation is actually like really good for what it is. It has like you can edit your body, which is Dragon Age has never done, and I wish they did.
Yeah.
You can even edit the voice a little bit.
Right.
So like all those are really solid. For more like puzzly things, I really liked The Room. That's a iPhone game. I've talked about that before. There's like 4 of those. They're all great. I really liked Oxenfree. That's kind of like a mystery with a radio. I'm gonna just end it there because it's more story based, and it's really strange and bizarre, and I liked it. It was definitely kind of spooky though. Great for Halloween if you want to play that. And I had trouble putting this on here because I know there's Alexis Kennedy's gotten a lot of trouble for sexual harassment allegations, and I'll say that out there, that someone who made this is maybe not the best, but I did kind of like Cultist Simulator. So I don't know, if you have that already, pick it up and play it. Like, I will say it's very bizarre, and it takes a while to figure out what you're doing, and I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but in like an interesting way. So I did like the game. I don't know, your results may vary on that. Is there anything like maybe not completely related to Dragon Age, but you would recommend?
What would I put into my other category? This one's kind of a weird one because it's in some ways it's like a parody of RPGs, but South Park: The Stick of Truth.
I've actually been wanting to play that.
It's very simplistic as far as I'm concerned, as far as the gameplay, but it's just, it's good South Park writing. I really can't say too much about the gameplay. Like, it's functional. It's a turn-based RPG. The gear and stuff does, exactly what you would expect it to. There's nothing really stand out about it, but it is like playing an episode of South Park. The writing is spot on.
Now I also have like a list of like games I haven't played, but I hear recommended all the time. We've talked about some things that you played, like Neverwinter Nights, Baldur's Gates, The Witcher 2 for me. Another thing I have on here is Horizon Zero Dawn. I hear is really good. That's a PlayStation exclusive, I believe.
Oh, that's a phenomenal! I can't believe I forgot about Horizon Zero Dawn. 100% people should go play that. It's amazing. It has a dialogue wheel. Anything that has a dialogue wheel, I automatically like.
And also a female-led game for people who like that. I also hear Vampire the Masquerade is good and campy.
God damn it! I was going to say that one too. I can't believe I forgot that one.
Don't worry, I got you. That's one I've been. They're going to come up with a new one. It's pretty soonish here, right? Or
so I never beat that one. I think they are coming out with 2. I started and stopped it. It's not because it was bad. It's just because I kind of wanted to play something else at the time. It's very dark. It's very, like, oh, I'm a vampire. That can, if you're not in the mood for that, that might wear thin, which it did for me when I started it. But I was impressed by the dialogue choices.
Now, is it dark, or is it like My Chemical Romance dark, if you know what I'm trying to get at here? A little bit
column A, a little bit column B.
Okay, because like I think it would be I would find it kind of entertaining to like have Hot Topic the game, but
it might satisfy some of that. Okay,
so that one's on my maybe list. I've heard good things about the Persona series, but again, I'm just not into JRPGs. But if you liked maybe Fire Emblem a lot, maybe try that. I know very little about that. I just keep seeing that recommended over and over again when people says, "What game should I play like Dragon Age?" I guess they have like a friend thing. I'm sorry, I don't know much about it. Is there anything that like you haven't played but hear recommended?
Tyranny is probably the one that has been sort of near the top of my list, which I mentioned earlier, just because I love Pillars so much.
Mm-hmm. So the very last category I have is things I hear recommended all the time, but I didn't actually like it that much. Number one was the first Witcher for me. I really hated that so far. I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I didn't like Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, it's old. I mean, it's just really old at this point.
It's so old to the fact that I had a lot of trouble getting into it. Same thing with Jade Empire. Jade Empire, I think, also I just didn't like.
Jade Empire's not that good. Like, I know that's sort of like the blasphemous thing to say because it's one of the mainstay BioWare catalog games that doesn't have some sort of weird story behind it or like, Dragon Age 2's production. I just don't think Jade Empire's that good. I think the writing is really weak.
I just never really got to any of the. I got pretty far in the game. I got about halfway through it apparently, by the guides I was reading, and nothing ever really hooked me. And like the gameplay was so wonky, like the actual fighting, I just couldn't finish it. So I really didn't like that. I put the Fallout series here mostly because it makes me barfy and depressed. So I'll pass. And then this one. I feel bad putting it because I do think it is a good series. I just, again, guns bore me even if they're fun guns, and that's Borderlands. I played it and it was all right. I just couldn't get into it. I don't know. It just wasn't my thing.
Yeah, Borderlands is really, it's about shooting more than it is an RPG or anything. It's just about, it's a first-person shooter where you have yeah. Yeah, I liked Borderlands as the first one well enough. I think I might have even beaten the first one. But like, it's nothing special for me.
Yeah, I hear a lot of good things about it, and the world is definitely fun. And I love like the new one has gun with legs. I loved that little guy. Like it has a lot of fun story building moments. But I'm just not a shooter fan, so it just wasn't my cup of tea. But I do hear it recommended a lot, so I put it on this list. Is there anything that like you hear recommended a lot, maybe? For like specifically Dragon Age fans, but just wasn't a fan of?
Nothing that's immediately coming to mind. I know like Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning has gotten sort of like a weird cult following after it came out. And that's one that got a ton of hype leading into development. And I remember playing it when it came out and I didn't like it. And then it sort of developed this cult following and people were like, no, like it's really good. Like we didn't appreciate it at the time. And so then I remember like a few years ago, I tried it as well. And I'm like, I still don't like it. I don't understand. I don't understand what people see about this. It just feels really cartoony to me.
Yeah, no, I get that. So, because I know I really like Dragon Age 2, but I know people definitely don't feel like that. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's all of the video games I can think of to recommend or maybe even not recommend. So, yeah, another good thing to add on, future games that are coming out that may be of interest. Cyberpunk, you talked about Outer Worlds. I'm trying to think of the apparently Vampire Masquerade 2 or whatever. That might be fun. I'm trying to think of like anything on the... Is it Baldur's Gate? Yeah, Baldur's Gate.
Baldur's Gate 3, yeah.
One coming out by Larian, by the makers of Divinity, and I'm very excited about that one. Of course, the only thing we have on that is a animated trailer, which means that they probably just started the game. So that might come out around the time Dragon Age 4 comes out, actually.
Yeah, no kidding.
Which that's going to make me sad because I'm going to have to I'm going to choose Dragon Age, but yeah. But yeah, is there any other like game that's on the horizon that you're looking for?
I mean, I think the big ones were Greedfall, Outer Worlds, and Cyberpunk, and we've got Greedfall now, which I think is, it's living up to my expectations because I did have somewhat tempered expectations, and I think so far it's living up to it, maybe surpassing it occasionally. Outer Worlds, I'm trying to figure out where to put it. Every time I see gameplay, I go, "Holy shit, this looks so cool! This looks like exactly what I want." But at the same time, they have said many, many times, time and budget. So we should have some limited expectations. And then, yeah, Cyberpunk is a game where just let your fucking hype run wild and we'll see what happens.
I don't know. I guess I'm worried about that game just because I know people have like excitement levels through the roof. And no matter how good Cyberpunk's going to be, it's not going to live up to that. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of backlash when Cyberpunk comes out.
I've said repeatedly, I think it's going to be smaller than people think. It does not look that big to me. It looks like levels inside of cities, and you'll be able to drive to some stuff. That is what I think is going to end up happening. I don't think it's going to be that big.
Which I think that's fine. I think too big, and I get like Divinity too big, and I get overwhelmed, and I'm as much as I commit in relationships, I can't do it with video games apparently. So I don't know. But yeah, that's other than what I've named. I mean, Animal Crossing. I'm really excited about. That's about it. You know. I don't know. I will say the past couple of E3s and other game conferences, all the new games coming out, other than the ones we've mentioned, is kind of like, I don't know. There's really not that many for RPGs coming out. I think right now RPGs are. I think maybe they're coming a little bit back in popular because there's like 4 or 5 new ones in the horizon that we just named.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
Oh, look, I mean, like Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 look great, but those are going to be out probably after Dragon Age at this point.
I think we might. Well, we definitely have more on Dragon Age 4 than we have on Elder Scrolls 6. I'll say that now.
Yeah, we have nothing on Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, no, well, we have a landscape with the title Elder Scrolls 6. Like.
Well, I mean, at least we have a landscape.
Well, and we hadn't, like, we don't know what the landscape is. At least we know, like, for Dragon Age, like, the idol and the mural, we could tell so much more about that in Dragon Age 4 than we can about a landscape.
Well,
other than, like, there might be a vague area.
To be fair, there are the lore experts in Elder Scrolls who are 100% sure that it's High Rock because they did dissection of the landscape.
But that they just know where it's set. We've known where the Dragon Age 4 has been set since Dragon Inquisition came out.
Yeah, I guess you're right. In a competition of like,
yeah, we know more about our next game than your next game, losers.
And yet nobody really knows anything substantial about either of them.
They both come out and it's like set in the Neanderthals. There's a set in elsewhere.
Yeah.
Like it's just
and the Starfield people are just like, well, look, suckers, we know ours is set in space. Okay,
it's underground or something. Yeah, no, it's, if they want to release Elder Scrolls and Starfield sooner rather than later, great, but I don't know, I think it's gonna be quite a while before we see any of those.
I agree.
So.
All right.
Yeah, anyway. So, I guess that's, we'll call it there, and then you can crawl back and try not to vomit on the rest of your house. So, Jordan, where can they find you when you're not?
The folks can find me at the Exalted March on YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, and Twitter. Caitie, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on YouTube as Ghildirthalen, Twitter as Ghildirthalen, and that's about it for the most part. And with that, guys, you're short.